2019 is officially in the books. And with that, we are going to have the beginning of a new decade. Thank you guys for tuning in to Short Slabs. This is going to be a different video from what I've typically done. I'm going to start a new session moving into the 2020 year where it's just hobby talk. So we're going to talk about the hobby, whether it be a top 5 list or a status update of what's going on in the hobby. Just a little bit of chat over all things sports and all things sports collectibles and sports cards across baseball, basketball, and the NFL over a nice cold beverage, preferably with a little bit of alcohol in it. Because in order for me to do this, I have to have an alcoholic beverage just to make things livelier. But yes, 2019 is in the books, and one of the things that this marks is the conclusion of a decade. And with this video, I want to go into a little bit of detail about some of the things that we've seen in this previous decade, 2010 through 2020. And I would say I would categorize it just, off the top of my head. This is probably the biggest area of change that we have ever seen. This decade was marked by incredible progress, incredible innovation, but in many ways it could be a very dark decade whenever we look back at this over the next couple of years, especially as we've closed out this decade. But if you go back through baseball card history, for the most part, all of us know innovation within the sports card industry was relatively non-existent for the better part of a decade. We started out the sports card world, really with baseball cards being found in tobacco packs. And I'm by no means a vintage card expert, but I certainly appreciate, the traditions and the heritage of where sports collectibles and trading cards have originated from. However, me growing up as a kid, it wasn't these tobacco cards that really got me excited about the hobby. It was me going into, a Walmart with my 2 brothers, one older and then one just 2 years older than me. But the oldest brother was taking us out to celebrate one of our other brother's birthdays. So there's 3 of us. And he bought me a pack of cards. And within this pack of cards, before I opened them, he told me, be careful with how you open them and how you handle them, because depending on which card you get, it could be incredibly valuable. He said this to a 6-year-old kid opening up a pack of 1993, 1994 Topps Stadium Club basketball cards. And I opened that pack, and I thought that every single card in that pack was a 1952 Topps Mickey Mantle. And as you can imagine, those cards today aren't even on par with firewood. Like they literally should not have been printed. The paper is worth more than I'm butchering this quote. Anyway, they're worthless. The cards are completely worthless. But it was in the 90s. It was a great decade of innovation that really started in the 80s with multiple sets, with competition. Don't want to go into decade by decade sort of what the hobby experienced, but incredible innovation through the 90s and also in the first decade of this millennium. But as we looked at 2010 up until now, it's a incredibly different landscape than how we closed out 2009. In 2009, for the most part, we still had multiple brands across the 3 and really 4 major sports leagues. And I don't have the timelines right in front of me, but from a basketball perspective, we're talking about Panini really starting to enter the basketball world in 2009, 2010. So they officially became the exclusive producer of basketball cards. NBA basketball cards. We still had a reign of Upper Deck for a couple of years, but this decade has been dominated by Panini. And Panini defines this decade from a basketball card market. Whenever we look at baseball cards have been a little bit different, but it's been dominated by Topps. Now the exclusive license with Topps started, I believe, the latter half of 2000 of the last decade. So I'm trying to think, was there a 2011 Upper Deck set? I remember the USA baseball sets. I remember 2010, yeah, there were still was there Upper Deck? Man, I'm really having a brain fart here. I know, 2008 had Upper Deck SPX with Clayton Kershaw and Max Scherzer. 2009, I'm almost positive there was an Upper Deck set, but 2010, I'm not sure if that was the final year, and then officially we moved over into the Topps world. Now, of course, Panini is still making cards through the Major League Baseball Players Association license, but those come with no logos. And I will say, out of any company who has done the no logo type of card, Panini has done it right. I'm not going to sit back and pretend that they're not doing that right. They are doing it right. And for the longest time of this decade, I have not understood why Upper Deck has sat on the sidelines, and largely the reason, and especially if you're listening to this and you're going to comment down below, you are likely going to comment with this, but likely the reason is due to finances. The lawsuits with Yu-Gi-Oh!, the lawsuits with other card manufacturing, whether it be license infringement or not paying players money that was owed to them, so Players Association suing Upper Deck. There's a lot of things that could potentially play into the reason why Upper Deck did not do this no logo trading card option and do it very well. They did it well in basketball. They absolutely did it well in basketball, and I wish that they had not discontinued that line. I believe Panini now has the basketball NCAA license. Now, someone correct me if I'm wrong with that, but I know that they're, this year they just produced Panini draft basketball cards featuring collegiate players. And they've been doing, collegiate sets for the past couple of years, all the way back, for the past couple of years, really, as far as I can tell. But I would say this has been the rise of Panini, and Panini has dominated this decade. So take that for whatever you would like. I would say from a Panini standpoint, Panini has really, they've been innovative, but they've not been innovative. And I want to explain sort of what I mean by that. They've been innovative in the sense that they are pushing one of the things that I want to talk about, this gambler's mentality. They're pushing products that are really lottery tickets. So going as far back as 2000, 2001 Upper Deck Ultimate Collection, which really was the first $100 pack or box type of lottery ticket type of set. So Upper Deck really started this. They took it to the next level with Exquisite in 2003, 2004, which is really the modern day T206 type set for sports. It continues to be that to this day. But Upper Deck sort of left it at bay because they knew that Exquisite was special. They knew that Ultimate Collection was the next realm of special. And they had already created something special in SPX and SP Authentic. There was no need to water down that market. You already had a mid-tier product that was capable of delivering an autographed rookie card that was relatively limited, but not incredibly limited. I mean, we're talking the LeBron James 0304 SP Authentic rookie number to 500 that at the time sold consistently in the $600, $700, $800 range. Plus graded, you're looking at four figures. They were able to deliver that for the most part out of a product that came to hobby retailers, in the $100 to $150 range. Now I can't explicitly remember how much that box costs. I remember I bought a box of 2002, 2003 Topps Finest that had the LeBron James Mystery Redemption in it, and that was $150 on launch day. But for the most part, the SP Authentic boxes were in the 80, 90, 100, maybe 120, maybe 150 range. But you could get that type of hit out of that. So it was mid-end, and by today's comparison, that's low end, right? An $80 box is low end today. $120 box is low end today. So Upper Deck did it right, and they did it with quality and like craftsmanship and design that has been unrivaled to this very day. So Panini has taken it to the next level where they know this model works, and with the advent of group breakers, it's really degenerated. It's become a degenerate hobby. It's completely become a degenerate hobby where people are exclusively seeking out these types of lottery ticket hits where I can't even count on my hand because I'm not in this market. And collect whatever you want, buy whatever you want. There's nice cards from these sets, but this type of collecting, I think that it's done more harm than good over the past decade. And because it has become so popular within the hobby, and this is my personal take on it, it's obviously popular because the cards are selling. The group breaks are selling out, and it may speak more towards the group breaking mentality than the cards themselves, because if you look at the quality of high-end releases from Panini, whether it be National Treasures or Flawless or Impeccable, they all look the same for the past 8 years. And if you literally compare them to Exquisite, it is night and day difference. And we're talking about an Exquisite set that is now 16, 17 years old from the first time that it came out versus National Treasures and Flawless that every single year they have the same white background on a Flawless card with a little bit of intricate foil like over the side of it, and they sell you like a handful of cards for, I don't even know how much a box is. I know it's well over $500 because that's what National Treasures debuted at several years ago. I mean, box prices now, are they in the 1,000 range yet? Are they four figures? I mean, it's unbelievable. From a business perspective, Panini has absolutely succeeded. And they've succeeded because they threw a lot of money out at the NFL Players Association. They threw a lot of money, or the NFL and the Players Association and the National Basketball Association, to acquire these exclusive licenses. And by acquiring these licenses, they do not have an incentive to produce cards that are competitive with Exquisite. They want to have that market, they want to have that niche, but there's no incentive to produce the quality within that niche. And I think that's a disappointing aspect of collecting, and for the most part, I think it's been a negative on the hobby for the past decade. So with that said, I guess the next thing that really defines this decade in itself is group breaking. And I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on this because I've essentially already spent some time on it, but group breaking in itself is such a problem, in my opinion, with the hobby. And again, there's people who are probably doing this really well in terms of there's value that you can find within group breaks. There's certain teams that are have better odds of hitting the payout, and that's essentially the same as going to Vegas and playing a certain type of game where you think that you have an advantage, and that's totally fine. I get that. Like, I love playing roulette and taking my 48% chances of winning versus the house 52% chances of winning, and it's fun. If it's an entertainment value type of thing, that's fine. But I've seen so many threads pop up on Blowout where people are saying, "Man, I've got into this way too deep," right? And it's become something where it's more than just entertainment. It's starting to become an obsession. And I actually talked to a psychologist a couple of years ago. I would actually encourage everyone to talk to a psychologist, and this is just me for my own mental clarity. But he was asking me about my hobbies and some of the things that I like to do, and I was going through a couple of things, and I told him about me participating in the hobby. Have a sports card, interest. I've collected whenever I was a kid. Now I sort of buy and resell, but it's for the fun of the game and for the love of the game. He was like, "You're not one of these people who like to spend a lot of money on like unopened boxes and group breaks or things like that, do you? And I'm like, no, but I value my money much more than that. And so I like to keep every dollar that I have. He's like, well, it's fine because, I know that can be very obsessive because I have a client who, has gone through thousands and thousands of dollars because it's an obsession to him. And, that really sort of resonated with me because for the most part, people that I interact with in the non-digital world outside of card shows don't really know about cards, which is kind of surprising because the market has exploded over the past decade. But this sort of made it hit home for me a little bit, and that this is a problem within our hobby. This addictive mentality that is group breaking. And sadly, I would say over the next decade, it's not going to get any better, I don't think. And I think one of the implications of that, and one of the things that I want to move on to as the next topic, is really the price of wax. Over the past decade, I think one of the big things that Panini predominantly has benefited with, because they're the ones that hold the exclusive licenses for, NFL product and also the NBA product, and they have a sizable, product line with the MLB, or at least the MLB Players Association. Wax prices have gone up tremendously. And I know it has to be within Panini's business plan because these licenses today are so much more expensive than what they used to be in the previous decade, and especially in the decades previous to that. Players are demanding more money. Associations are planning more money. There's a thread on Blowout that talked about there's this investment capital group that is going in with one of the league's players. I don't know if it was the MLB Players Association or it was the NFL, but essentially they wanted to invest in some of these contracts that the NFL Players Association or whichever league it was had done with things like card deals and media and those types of things, because they want to maximize the revenue that their players are acquiring, which makes sense. I mean, the bean counters have taken over that. I mean, it's a revenue generating sport, right? Players' rights and players' marketing is something that has value. It's tangible. So maximize that revenue, especially while you're an active player or even a retired player. So because these fees have gotten so expensive, I mean, we're looking at box prices. I think that Panini has likely had to develop a strategy. This is the chicken or the egg, or egg before the chicken. Did Panini develop this type of group breaking type of product and then it just became popular with the group breakers? Or was it something that group breakers became a big thing and then Panini started catering to them? Or did it just happen at the same time? Or was there no rhyme or reason and it just sort of happened and Panini benefited from this model the entire time? Regardless, I think one thing that we can really say is that the hobby as a whole has not benefited from this. As we try to attract youth into this hobby, because this is a hobby that's predominantly controlled by people my age and maybe 20 years older than me. So I'm, early 30s. This is a hobby that extends up into folks in their 60s. Where are those folks who are in their teens and 20s now? The 20 folks now, they're into the sneakers. And I'm going to have a video at some point that shows and describes why the kids who are in the sneakers, outside of Instagram and trying to get girls, however kids get girls these days, I don't know, teach me lessons. However they get girls these days, they need to be in cards. The people who are doing this for flipping sneakers, they need to be in cards. But as we try to attract the hobby, box prices aren't going to be one thing that's going to do it. Because it is cost prohibitive to get anything. I mean, we're looking at this year, 2019-20 hoops, Panini Hoops basketball. I cannot remember what the pre-sale prices for those things were, but we're talking about box prices in the mid triple digits, like $150 or $160 give or take, for hoops, which is, I mean, that's the entry level Panini product for basketball cards. Like, and this is the box prices that we're talking about. Now we're looking at Bowman Chrome Draft jumbo boxes in the 350, 400 range at launch, depending on what the checklist looks like. And we're talking about checklists that are 80 subjects large, meaning the odds of you hitting any type of player. I mean, it's just astronomical how the hobby has changed. I mean, if we go back right before the economy took a really big dump in 2007. Again, this didn't happen in 2008. It happened in 2007. But whenever the economy dumped in 2007, fall of 2007, that carried over into 2018. Or 2008, sorry. When that carried over into 2008, I'm sure that all these card manufacturers were sort of assessing their assets and what they wanted their products to look like. If we look at 2008 Bowman Chrome Draft, and I always post about this, you look at that autograph subject list. This was the year that Topps did not get any of the first rounders to sign for Topps in 2008. 2007 was the same. It was David Price's class. But 2008, there were really, if you look at Bowman Chrome Draft, the prospects that were in Bowman Chrome Draft were not draft picks. They were not draft picks. I mean, the headliners were like Jesus Montero, Wilmer Flores, Angel Villanova, Michelle Wainoa, like a 16-year-old pitcher. I mean, it was dominated by these international prospects. Now, yeah, you had Giancarlo Stanton. He was in there. He was a draft prospect. You had, the Josh Reddick. So, I mean, you had a couple of guys. But that checklist was like 20-something subjects. So the odds of you hitting, a potential, like, of those guys, I want to say there were 5, 6, 7 guys who ended up being top 10, top 15, top 20 prospects. I mean, Jesus Montero was a top 3 prospect. Mike Stanton, or Giancarlo Stanton, I can't remember what he was ranked, but he should have, if he made the rankings, he was going to be top 3. I think he ended up being top 3. He didn't graduate in time to where we didn't get to see that happen. Wilmer Flores was a top prospect. I don't think he ever lived up to the hype, but he was a top prospect. Michelle Wainoa was a top prospect. Angel Villanova may have been top 30, but he was the second coming. Like, he was Vlad Guerrero Jr. before Vlad Guerrero Jr. until he decided he just wanted to go murder some people. And once he did that, he kind of ruined his career. So I look back at that set and I just compare it to today, and I know that you could have bought those boxes in 2008 for $60, $70, $80 a piece, and you were pretty much, you open 3 to 4 of those, you're guaranteed to get a good autograph. Today, that's not the case. You're talking about spending $300-$400 a box for a super jumbo to get 3 autograph subjects, where the odds of you getting a good autograph by the time you open those 4 boxes and you get 12 autograph subjects out of an autograph subject checklist of 90, it's just not there. The math doesn't work out. But people, again, the people are losing so much money into this group breaking mentality. I mean, people. It's just like a casino. It's like the hobby itself is a casino, and that the group breaking process itself is a casino. It is literally a legal casino or an unregulated casino, because instead of really robbing people of their entire fortune one at a time, it's slowly robbing everyone. Now, every now and then, the penny slot will pay off, and it'll spit out $1,000 reward here or there. Every now and then you might get a $10,000 reward, depending on what the product is. But for the most part, everyone is just hitting the slots, and they're losing, $15, $20, $30 at a time, getting nothing. But they're going back for more because it's so tempting. So I think that we have lost. Not that we've lost. It's just difficult to attract people to come into the hobby for the right reasons. Now, that's to say, flipping this from a bad thing to a good thing for the rest of this, monograph or monologue. I think that the hobby is moving in the right direction in terms of popularity. So, this past decade, we gained a lot of folks. Good or bad, we gained a lot of people. And we see that through the values that have been attributed to the market. You look at cards across the entire spectrum, whether it be vintage prices. Not going to talk about the trimming scandal at this point. That'll be something I will talk about. But, taking aside that for a second, if you look at vintage prices, graded and non-graded, if you look at Michael Jordan prices across the board, I mean, you look at a Jordan rookie at the beginning of the decade and you look at a Jordan rookie, today, the prices are astronomically different. You look at Michael Jordan Bulls autograph cards. I mean, that is almost the true definition of 10X. You want a 10X, as a lot of these people talk about on YouTube, buy sports cards. You want something to 10X in 10 years, buy sports cards. Buy high quality sports cards. And that's not to say that everything is going to 10X. I mean, that's the selling point that people were selling back in 87, 88, 89, 90, 91, 92. And a lot of people bought a lot of worthless paper. But if you bought high quality things in 2009, 2010, if you bought Mike Trout Bowman Chrome autograph rookies, which I had 3 Blue Refractor autographs from 2009, including 2 Gem Mint by Beckett. Yeah, if you bought those back then and you had them today, sure, you might not have a mortgage. Sure, you might, depending on how many you have, you might have beachfront property. And it might have been equivalent to the real estate play had you bought the dip in 2011, 2012, 2013. So as the economy has risen, yeah, prices have risen if you assume that the buyer pool remains stagnant. Because if the economy rises and the total number of spenders within the hobby remains constant, overall prices are still going to go up because everybody has extra disposable income. That extra disposable income is going to go into things like hobbies, sports cards being a hobby. Prices are naturally going to go up. But I think it's been much, much, much more than that. And that's evident by participation in the boards. If you look at card shows now, card shows are packed. A decade ago, they were dying. Card shops were dying. Card shops are still dying. But card shows are not dying. Card shows, people are coming out. They are excited. They have money. They're enjoying these tax cuts. They're enjoying this thriving economy. They're enjoying, having extra money in their pocket, and they are spending it in their hobby, in their childhood hobby. And many of them are doing it as a collector. Many of them are doing it as an investor. And both of them are, in my opinion, welcome to the hobby as long as they have good intentions and good morals, and they're doing things with honesty and decency. But overall, the growth of the hobby for the past decade has been something to really marvel at, because we closed the decade saying, how long is this hobby really going to last? And now I think as we enter 2020, I don't think that that's really on anybody's radar. I think people are at least expecting this hobby to last until 2030. I mean, I don't see it slowing down. Having said that, I know we've gone through a couple caution signs of what have happened, over this past decade. I think there's a couple trends that probably don't need to continue. So I may save those for another decade, as I really do want to stay on, this past decade and having it be a reflection. So we've talked about group breaking. We've talked about the explosion and the number of people coming into the hobby. We've talked about consolidation among licenses. I think one of the big things that we need to talk about is perhaps one of the things that may have saved the hobby, but it could be a potential dark entity that is breeding within the hobby that could potentially detract a lot of people from it, and that's third-party graders. So hashtag Slabgate, starting circa 2018, 2019, it's a thing. And I think that educated collectors have known it's been a thing. especially people who buy cards raw on eBay and are expecting to get gem mint results. I know for a fact that if I buy a Tom Brady rookie card from 2000 whatever, you name the set, and I get that card graded and it comes back a PSA 10, I know that I just made a lot of money. And I think a lot of people know that. I think a lot of people in the hobby know that. Not a lot of people grade, but that's changing. That's a trend that we saw change this past decade. But one thing that has always been cognizant with me, and I don't know if I just learned this or I just observed this very early on and it just stuck. 'Cause usually there's lessons. I think all of us know that there's lessons within the hobby that, we did this wrong, and it may have taken a while for us to do it wrong, and we have learned not to do that again. I don't think I really made this mistake ever. I think I just observed it. And I just know that there are not enough raw Tom Brady rookie cards out there. There has not been enough raw Tom Brady rookie cards out there to justify the number of new Lighthouse label PSA 10s that I'm seeing. And that thought alone, I've never looked for serial numbers before and after, although I know that it's happened. I've actually, let me go back. In the first decade, around 2006, 2007, I had a 2001 SP Game Use Bat Edition Albert Pujols card. And it was from SP Game Use Edition, but it was one of those that was numbered to 35. It was like a gold parallel or something. It was serial numbered. I still remember it, 25 of 35. Now, whenever I had this card, I sold this on eBay. I mean, whenever I sold it, I was like still using my parents' account. Actually, no, I think I actually sold this under my account. I was like 18 or 19 whenever I sold it. So I sold this card on eBay, and I got like $150 out of it. A couple months later, I saw the same card in a Beckett 9.5 holder, and I looked at it in the images on eBay, and it had perfect corners. I specifically remember one of those corners being white. And it wasn't one of those things you can just touch it with your finger and it becomes non-white, and it goes back to where it was. There are some corners that are like that, and I don't consider that altering. I consider that just moving the card physically. This card had been shaved. So that was my first introduction to trimming. I just know, whenever I look for Tom Brady rookie cards, I just know that something has been done to these cards. I'm not naive. So I personally decide, that is not a market that I'm going to collect in. I don't have any interest in collecting Tom Brady, which is a good thing. I have an interest in investing in Tom Brady, but I know that that is a very manipulated market based on what I've just described. So I stay away. And I've had that in my mind for many years because I grade cards, right? One of the fun things that I like to do is buy raw cards and get them graded. I'm going to stay away from certain sets, certain rookie year players, certain types of cards that are just prone to alteration. And there's a lot of reasons why cards are prone to alteration. The main reason why they're prone to alteration is the value that you could get out of them. People know that Tom Brady are collectible. Tom Brady 2000 NFL trading cards are a liquid asset. They are a commodity. They are in high demand. I mean, his contenders, NFL ticket, whatever, Super Bowl ticket, whichever one numbered to 49 or 99. I mean, isn't that card now almost $250,000 graded like as a BGS 9 or BGS 8.5? I mean, we're talking about the modern day Honus Wagner card in football cards. And it's not that old. It's only 19 years old. That is how iconic Tom Brady cards are. So his market is in high demand, and because it's in high demand, it is a very easily manipulated market. So I choose not to stay in that realm, right? I don't want to stay in that realm. So what has been uncovered with Slabgate, I don't want to undermine the work that they've done. It's just they're doing a lot of work that many of us, I think, knew existed. Didn't know the scope, didn't know the players, didn't know the types of cards. But as I look at a 1950-something Mickey Mantle, and I see it in near mint 8 condition, and I see this card in a brand new graded lighthouse holder, like it was just graded last month or last year, I'm sitting here in my head thinking, how many Mickey Mantles are out there in circulation like that are raw and that somebody could buy for a raw price and then have it graded with PSA and it come back in that grade and now of that market value? I can give you the answer roughly. It is approaching infinitely 0. So if anyone here is a fan of Michaelis Menten kinetics because you're a scientific nerd or you have some sort of scientific background, whether it be biology, chemistry, physics, whatever, Michaelis Menten kinetics describes enzyme-substrate relationships as enzyme transitions substrate into whatever. Essentially, the curve looks like it goes upward, sort of linear, and then it sort of turns into a right-handed parabola. And whenever that right-handed parabola sort of levels off, that's what you call Vmax. Well, if you can imagine us hitting the Vmax of ungraded or untapped, Gem Mint Mickey Mantle cards that are out there, Mint Mickey Mantle cards, like we're hitting it. Like we're almost there. Yeah, there might be some houses in Podunk, America that have some cards behind the wall still. I have no doubt that still exists. The fact that you could, the idea that you can walk into any card show in America today and buy a raw vintage card that is clean, unaltered, that has never been looked at by a collector who submits cards for grading, and they can buy that card and submit it for grading and have it come back, in exceptional condition. That's just a thing of the past, man. That idea. There's a reason why I don't own vintage cards, and it's because I can't do the model that I want to do because I know, 1, the card has either been altered. 2, there's something wrong with the card that I just can't detect. 3, I'm getting taken because I don't know this market. So I subscribe to the Warren Buffett philosophy. The Warren Buffett philosophy states that you only invest in the cards, not the cards. You only invest in what you know. You can be a batter, as he describes it, you can be a batter in a batter's box, and you can swing, or you can not swing, right? You only swing at the pitches that you recognize. You can see so many pitches go by, right? And let's just say there's unlimited strikes in this game. You can only swing at the pitches that you know, and that's the markets that you know. I don't know vintage. So Slabgate has been a scandal, and I think that it's been elevated. Unfortunately, it's been elevated, and it's become much more predominant and visible. And I think that visibility is a good thing. I think the fact that Darren Ravel tweeting about it is a good thing. I think that Gary V not addressing it at the National is a good thing. I think that Evan Mathis getting caught is a good thing. I think that big name people being exposed is a good thing. I think that the LeBron exquisite market being condemned and being shown to be a manipulated, trimmed market, not from a shilling perspective. I'm sure that people are protecting their investments, but at the same time, people are dropping over $300,000 for highly sought-after cards. That is a fact. Precious metal green gem Jordans are selling for over $300,000. Like it or not, trimmed or not, people are spending that money. People are spending a lot of money on LeBron rookies, and Steph Curry national treasures, and Giannis national treasures, and now Luka national treasures, and anything else high end. That's just, it's happening. But the exposure and exposing this market for what it truly is, that I am happy about that. I'm very, very happy about that. So the grading thing, the trimming is more of a recent phenomenon. So I don't want to belabor the point and say that's a negative, because in my opinion, grading saved this hobby. It saved this hobby. And people who are anti-grading can fight that. They can be resistant to it. They can say all the things that they want to about grading and how bad it is and how bad the people are that do it and how all they care about is money and they're probably all trimmers. Grading saved this hobby. So you really should be thankful that grading saved the hobby, because what it did is it turned an 89 Upper Deck Griffey rookie at the last decade. I mean, that was a $20 to $30 card. Okay, $20 to $30 a card. Now a PSA 10 is what, 600, 800? So that turned your more than common. The cards that were produced in the hundreds of thousands, it made those cards valuable. It made those cards relevant again. So not only did it make those cards relevant, it made every card relevant that was mass produced, and also cards that were not mass produced. It took them to new heights. It created one more niche in the hobby that needed to be a niche. It needed to be a differentiator, where you say, this is an exceptional specimen of an example for this card. Again, take trimming out of it, take all that out of it, take that out of it, whoever is thinking that in your mind. Just erase it for a second. There is a need to differentiate between quality of cards. There is a need to differentiate between a gem mint card and a mint card. And for those of you who cannot tell the difference, you are blind. Grading has its place within this hobby. It absolutely has its place. And in my opinion, it saved the hobby because it, again, created scarcity where in many situations, scarcity did not exist. And because of that, it has become one of the biggest, funnest niches and longest term niches that I've had. I've kind of gone and bounced around a lot. I used to collect basketball cards. I used to prospect basketball cards. I kind of stopped that with Darius Miles and Kenyon Martin whenever I pulled both of their SPX autograph rookie cards, and now they're both worth like $5. I used to prospect baseball cards. I used to buy one-of-ones. I used to buy Hall of Fame autographed rookies. Or not autograph rookies. Hall of Fame autographs. Big name guys. Roger Clemens, Albert Pujols, those types of guys. That was cool to have that. And then I got into baseball prospecting and then started grading. And I've been grading, and as soon as I started grading, I haven't ever left. It's been one of the funnest things for me in the hobby because, we're all in this hobby for a lot of different reasons. Some of us financial, some of us to really disconnect from the minutia of the world. And, the world is a very different place than what it was in 2010. And for a lot of people, it's been a very up and down decade, me included. Lots of highs and lots of lows. Having a hobby that you can enjoy that is drama-free, it's almost like a pet. It's almost like you having a pet that sort of loves you unconditionally, regardless of what you've done, regardless of what the world is. It's a constant, right? It's a constant joy in your life. And it should be something that is fun. It should be something that people enjoy. Yeah, dude, we all need to freaking nerd it out and own that this is a nerdy hobby, but it's a fun nerdy hobby. Like, it's fun. I tell everybody I know. There's not one person who knows me in the real world, outside of the Matrix. In the real world, which is not many people, by the way, because my Matrix world is bigger than my real world. It's pretty sad. But in the real world, every person that I meet knows that I do this. They know that this is kind of my passion. Many people even know, I would even say on job interviews, they know that this hobby is what sparked me into my career, into getting my MBA, into going into the professional school route that I went into. And these skills are transferable, believe it or not, into my job. The skills that I've learned in this hobby over the past, 20, golly, I cannot believe it's been 25 years. Wow. The past 25 years have translated into success professionally. So it's something that I enjoy, and I want to continue enjoying it, and I don't want it to go away. I want the bad things to be rooted out, and I want the good things to stay, but I want it to be drama-free. And I think grading is a big piece to that. So with that, I think that this has been a really, really good decade. There's a bunch of wishes that I wish that I could have for the next decade. I wish Upper Deck would finally get a license back. Michael Jordan, if you're listening to me, and I know you got to be a subscriber out there, like, I don't know how you can live life and not subscribe to me and my channel. But Michael Jordan, I know that you're listening out there all through the 46 minutes of beauty that is coming through your radio waves. If you hear my loud voice broadcasting across the globe, buy Upper Deck. Buy Upper Deck and get a license with the NBA so that we can see your image graced on 2021 Upper Deck wax. And so that I can actually see LeBron James's little kid get a rookie card on an Upper Deck, SPX rookie auto jersey. Dude, that would be sick. That would be sick. All right, guys, I'm dipping out. Peace.